So this chapter 0 is just an introduction to the book that you have, which is the SQL Fundamentals 1 book. You should be seeing the second slide on here that says introduction. Basically, the book is really a fairly in-depth look at all the fundamentals of SQL. Oracle actually uses this book and this approach to teach SQL for their 1Z0-051 exam out of their OCA certification. There are 2 exams for OCA certification. Oracle Certified Associate is OCA, and this prepares you for the SQL part. The other exam prepares you more for the database and controlling the database part. There is in the back of the book, when you get it, there is a CD, which has the book in electronic form, which I've already sent you the PDFs, but it also has some practice tests if you ever decide you wanted to go for the real actual certification. So that's there too. Within the chapters, there are a lot of different things. For instance, on page 65 of the book, and let's see if we can get to that. On page 65 of the book, there's something called an exam watch. If you open it, well, you got to open your book. Page 65 is actually in chapter 2, and I should put that here somewhere. See, there's an on the job which has really it highlights some topic that we're going to be going over, and it highlights it in a way to relate it to something you would do really as programming on the job, which I think is the on the job is kind of things are going to be more important to you than the next one, which is on page 65, which is an exam watch. The exam watch, it really focuses for people that are looking to take the OCA exam. And it tells you, hey, this is an important concept because it's going to be on the exam. Now, some of those, of course, are important concepts anyway, but this really is focusing that something in particular is on the exam. So the exam watch and the on the job are the 2 things you're going to probably focus in the on the job as you go through the book. Inside the exam is another thing that's going to cover things that are on the exam, not the most critical to you. And there's a certification summary, and let's see, at the end of each chapter, there's always a certification summary. So if you look at page 157, which is in chapter 3, look at page 157, which is in chapter 3, you should see that. 7 certification summary, and at the end of each chapter, it really gives you a very nice summary of the whole chapter. So really, when you go through a chapter and you're reading it and you're working with it, at the end of the chapter, there's a great certification summary, and it'll tell you, go over everything. And those are if you look at that and you understand what it all says, you're fine. If you don't, then you need to go back to the chapter. And then beyond that, there's a little drill to help you with things, questions to ask yourself to make sure you understand it. And then there are 2 things. There's a self-test, which is geared more, I'm going to have you do some of the self-tests, but not all of them by a long shot, because the self-test is geared more to the exam. There's a self-test, and then there is a lab question. And it has you actually do a lab where you're going to get on and do some work. So you're going to do almost all the labs that are in the back, but the labs are not sufficient. This book, the one weakness it has is it doesn't have sufficient labs for people doing hands-on kind of work. So I've developed a whole bunch of other labs that you're going to use within as we go through the class. And those other labs you can get from your control panel. There is a tab that says Materials. So everyone take a look at your tab that says Materials in your control panel. And if you click on the Materials tab, it will show you a file called SQL Fundamentals Workshops. So you're going to want to download that, keep that handy, because we're going to be going through those SQL Fundamentals Workshops in detail. And here's a look at a brief look at what it's going to look like. When we get to the end of Chapter 1, this is just the intro chapter, so-called 0. When we get to the end of Chapter 1, we're going to do this first workshop, which is our setup and setting everything up, connecting to the server, making sure we can get connected, and so on. So download that workshops, SQL Fundamentals Workshops, from the Materials tab, and we'll be hitting those. So we talked about all of these things. We talked about the 2-minute drill, the self-test, the lab questions. And in the back, for the lab questions and the self-test, they have solutions. In the back of each chapter, they have solutions to those two things. So of course, give it a try on your own. If you're running into problems and you don't understand, you can look in the back when you're all done and see if your answers were right and look at help with that. Okay? So that gives you the solutions. For the workshop that you just downloaded, which are all the additional ones, I will not be giving you solutions until the end of the class. So those you'll need to do and work on, and at the very end of the class on the last day, I will ship you a file with all the solutions on them. And what we do here is I'm trying to make this as close to an in-person class as I possibly can, so as close to a class where I'm sitting in front of you. So as you're working on the labs, I am available all the time. Unless I run out for a minute, I'll leave you a little note that I went to get a cup of coffee or something. But other than that, I will be here. And if you have a problem, and you work on it a few minutes, don't spend 15 minutes on one little problem. Either ask someone there if you happen to be working in a group or whatever for some assistance, or more likely just ask me. I'll be on the phone. I will be able to look at it. I can make you the presenter so that I can see what your screen is and help you out with it. So take a few minutes to work on it, but don't take 15 minutes because there's too much work to do here to spend too much time on any one exam. Okay, so those are our highlights here. Any questions before we get started with Chapter 1?